Hi.
Hello, and welcome to The Future of Politics. We're going over constitutional reforms.
From 1997 to 2010. And then next episode it'll be 2010 to present. So first off we've got our key terms, which obviously you need to know the key terms.
Obviously. So,
Obviously.
You've got statutes, which are the laws passed by both houses of Parliament and have received royal assent. We went over that last episode, so if you had your listening ears on.
Then the Parliament Acts of 1911 and 49, which we also went over last episode.
Exactly. So
too damn bad if you don't know that.
That's your
That's
issue.
a you problem.
That's a skill issue right there. So now we've got the European Committees Act, which basically formally took the UK into the European Economic Community and made EU law take precedence over UK law in conflicting matters. So it's basically just joining the EU.
Yeah. Modernisation is the process of adapting something to modern needs or habits.
And democratisation is the introduction of a democratisation is an introduction of a democratic system or principles.
Devolution is the delegation of power to local or regional administration.
And individual rights are the rights that are required to live a free and equitable life. Boom!
So the big question of today is, have the key themes, has constitutional reform, has it become, made Parliament and the UK better? Has it actually improved anything?
Has it done anything?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Why was there a demand for change in the 1990s? Well, a lot of people had changing attitudes. The US got a new president in George W. Bush who's a lot more forwards and progressive in comparison to previous presidents. So the UK was majorly influenced by that as well, trying to follow in their footsteps.
The Conservatives have been in for ages, Margaret Thatcher had served 2 terms, and then her opinion on the miners' strike and Tony Blair's New Labour emergence.
Politics had also become a lot more mainstream, it was being broadcast everywhere. Tony Blair was very favourable. He appeared to be the guy that you'd want to know, the geezer almost. And so with him reforming to New Labour, a lot of people wanted that change.
All of that malarkey.
So then the key themes for the reform of the constitutional reform are the key terms we discussed. So modernisation, democratisation, devolution and individual rights. They're
the 4 main
how
subcategories.
It's changed, yeah. So we'll start with modernisation, which is things like the House of Lords, the senior judiciary, the civil service all seemed out of touch and kind of
rested on archaic values. Very old school.
Yeah,
traditionalist.
So that we needed
change.
Well, we didn't, but
we
did, but we got modern.
Yeah, we modernised.
Yeah.
So democratisation, which I can't say, is when Tony Blair, aimed to improve levels of participation and gave us more referendums. He also created citizenship in schools, which I only ever remember learning about the Black Plague or the bubonic plague. That's the only thing I learned about in citizenship.
The idea was good, but
the idea was there, but
it wasn't carried out.
Yeah.
1 hour of a week, didn't even learn about
politics.
Anyway. And then devolution is obviously
we've covered it. We know what devolution
we know what it is.
Basically, gave Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland parliaments. But I don't think it all happened in this one. But that's devolution.
And Tony Blair recognised that Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland wanted more control over their own nations, and they needed to distribute political and legislative power away from Westminster.
So they had they could choose what to do. Local issues that affect local people.
Yeah.
Instead of it all happening in Westminster, because obviously people who live at the very tippy top of Scotland, they have such a different life to people who live in the middle of London.
Yeah.
So it's the laws that affect them basically.
Yeah.
And then individual rights. So New Labour, obviously under Tony Blair, set out to establish more entrenchment protection when it came to human rights and minorities. Trying to just make the world a little bit more equal.
Yeah, basically. So now we'll look at them in a bit more detail. So we'll start with modernisation and it'll be examples and then obviously we'll evaluate. So the first example is the House of Lords Act in 1998, which removed all but 92 hereditary peers from the House of Lords and replaced them with nominated life peers who were like selected by expertise for their expertise.
Yeah, expertise in their specific field.
Yeah.
So like Alan Sugar's a lord. That's because he's really economically knowledgeable.
Yeah.
So then you've got the Constitution Reform Act of 2005. It created a separate Supreme Court by removing the highest judicial court from the House of Lords. So basically, our Supreme Court became the Supreme Court and wasn't attached to Parliament anymore.
Yeah.
So it basically gave them a greater sense of judicial independence and separation from powers, which also increased in like holding Parliament to account.
Yeah.
Because now it's separate from Parliament, you can hold Parliament to account better.
Exactly. Bro, why don't people knock on the door?
Yeah.
The evaluation, did modernisation, obviously this is only 2 examples, but like, did it actually, like, is it modernised now?
Yeah. So, yes, because the House of Lords is smaller and less biased towards the Tories, because obviously if you were an hereditary peer, you've come from money, so you're going to favour the Tories more, or the Conservative Party.
Yeah.
But now, because it's based on expertise, there's a lot less political bias, because it's meant to, obviously it doesn't have parties,
Yeah.
so removing that subconscious political bias helped modernise it.
Yeah.
And like I said, the Supreme Court now being separate means the government is held to account because there's no fear of like retaliation.
Yeah. And then, no, it didn't help. The House of Lords still remains the only unelected chamber in the whole world.
Unelected second chamber.
Yeah, unelected second
Because
chamber.
obviously there's places that have dictatorships, but they don't have second chambers. So.
And the Supreme Court is basically just shifted power from one body of unelected officials to another.
Yeah.
So it didn't actually
It
change.
didn't really
it just
reform
basically
much.
just got a new name.
Another theme is democratisation. So the 2 examples are the Referendums Act in 1997, which allowed for referendums to be held in Scotland and Wales on whether they should let their own parliaments make decisions on local issues. And they were both successfully passed, but only just in Wales.
Yeah,
So I think the percentages, like Wales was probably like about 52 to 48, I think. And I do think it had quite low turnout as well, so it was a miracle that it got passed. And the Greater London Authority Act in 1999, it basically just gave a directly elected London mayor, and I think that's under AV rather than like first past the post. So that's why we have, I don't know who the London mayor is. I know Boris Johnson was for a time, but I don't know who it is right now, isn't it? I know Manchester obviously is Andy Burnham. No, because they brought in ULEZ, so it's, I think he's Labour.
It is Sadiq Khan.
Sadiq Khan.
And then the European Parliamentary Elections Act 1999 changed EU elections from first past the post to proportional representation, which gave like minor parties a chance.
Yeah, so they gain a lot more seats. So I know Brexit did really well in the EU election we had, obviously, before Brexit actually happened, but like the Brexit Party, they got quite a few seats in comparison to having like 1 seat in like Westminster because we have first past the post. But the evaluation for was this successful in giving greater like democracy is there's greater autonomy in some cities. So Manchester and London, as I mentioned, they have their mayors, and obviously Scotland having their own parliament and Wales having their own like Welsh Assembly. And with the EU reforms, like Maya said, they give minor parties a real chance of having seats.
No, lots of regions rejected the idea of a mayor. I know the North West did, and minor parties have no chance outside of the EU, even if there is true. Devolution. Obviously, we know what devolution is, so we'll jump straight in.
Straight into the deep end.
The Scotland Acts of 1998 and 2006
Sticks. Yeah.
established a democratically elected Scottish Parliament and gave them the power to legislate on particular issues like education and energy, but not tax, rights, or democracy. So, evaluation now, it wasn't important. Like, yeah, local issues are important, but it didn't give them power. It just gave them a little bit of something.
Yeah, like,
Something.
here's the budget that we'd split out into Manchester anyway, but no, you get control over it, so we're just going to do the same as you would do, because that's the budget for the things.
Exactly.
Like the NHS, transport, stuff like that. Maybe on the Wales Act?
Yeah.
Okay. The Wales Act of 1998 and 2006, it just established a democratically elected Welsh Assembly.
And then...
So that's near the south of Wales. Plaid Cymru are the people that win most of the time.
Yeah. And then the Northern Ireland Act of 1998 established a democratically elected Northern Irish Assembly. Northern Ireland Assembly.
Yeah, so
But, like, their parliament is a bit crazy. Well,
Yeah.
not parliament, they're, like, you know... You get
Assembly.
me. Yeah.
Assembly point. So, the evaluation. So, it's clearly successful in Scotland and Wales. It works. Scotland more so, you've got the drug amnesty rooms, free uni tuitions.
Yeah.
Like, they're working, they were the first country to end period poverty, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But because it's probably the only reason Scotland didn't vote for independence in the 2014 referendum.
Yeah.
And also because Brexit didn't happen. I think that's another reason. And it also allowed like cultural expressions to be respected. So the drug amnesty rooms basically.
Yeah. And then Northern Ireland has been suspended multiple times due to infighting. Like, I think it's I can't remember what the party's called.
Yeah.
But it's like, they, like, the two parts of Ireland hate each other.
Because you've got the Catholics and the Protestants, and they don't get along because they think you should be following the religion this way. No, I think you should be following the religion this way.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like Republicans and Democrats. So they just have a lot of issues within Parliament because they can't come to a middle ground because they're very ideologically completely different.
And their system has to be proportional, and it's like basically half and half. So it's like, and Theresa May literally, at one point, she was like, if the two parties don't get together, we're gonna pass abortion and gay marriage laws, like hoping to like make them
work together because they're both against that.
But they didn't, and she just passed them, so now it's like legal. And then there is actually no appetite for devolution in England. The North East has rejected establishing a regional body on several occasions.
Not a lot of people want them there.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
You've got to make another paycheck.
Yeah.
But individual rights. So the Human Rights Act of 1998. So UK courts could make legal decisions on incidents where individual human rights had been impacted. So UK citizens got faster, more accessible justice.
And then Freedom of Information Act 2000, like, you got more access to information about yourself that was held by the government.
And the Equality Act of 2010 promoted a fairer society and protected characteristics. So like ethnicity, race, gender,
I think
sexuality.
Pregnancy,
yeah.
Like maternity and paternity. And then evaluation. Did it improve? Did it reform the Constitution?
So for yes, because I think I've done all of the yeses, so we might as well keep it the same. There's more awareness of minority groups and their rights. So, allowing time off and giving people rooms to pray.
Yeah.
if they need to do that throughout the day. So there's privacy rights are upheld by public institutions like schools, hospitals.
Like safeguarding, basically.
Yeah. And the Supreme Court's willingness to protect individual rights against abuses of power from the state.
And then, no, the Supreme Court are inherently undemocratic. They're not elected, so it's not really better. Wait. I don't understand how that links. I don't know why I've written that.
Yeah. I guess
Supreme
it's because
Court are inherently undemocratic.
they're still kind of part of like
they kind
the
of have a
government.
bias.
So they're obviously not
Yeah.
gonna, from the state,
Yeah.
they're gonna kind of protect their own,
Yeah.
I guess.
And then there's limitations to freedom of information, like national security. So,
Okay. And then moving on to the types of election systems.
yes.
So a few key terms you need to understand beforehand is apathy. Apathy is one of them. So apathy is just a lack of interest and trust in politics. I think we mentioned this a little bit before on the last episode.
Yeah, because we were talking about apathy as well. And
yeah.
then alienation is misinformation, and it creates a despondent underclass. It's
They're
like
just not interested, uneducated in politics. There's no
desire to be involved in politics.
and catch-all parties. So they have very little ideological differences between like Labour and the Conservatives. They're just there to
Yeah.
get everyone. So they're each a continuation of the last. So famously, Margaret Thatcher said Tony Blair's my biggest legacy in politics, and then David Cameron was just copying what Tony Blair did to an
Yeah.
extent. They're all just an extension on the next, even
And
though
now,
they're
like Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak,
they're
like
the
Keir
same
Starmer
people.
praising like Margaret Thatcher, even though he's the leader of Labour and stuff. It's just like they're trying to apply to everybody, and it
Yeah.
just causes
there's no genuine offer for change.
party de-alignment. People just don't know the difference between parties.
So in 2011, we actually got given a referendum to change our system of voting from first past the post.
First coffee.
From first past the post to AV, which is alternative voting. This was done under the coalition from the Conservatives and Lib Dems, so it was Nick
David
Clegg
Cameron.
and David Cameron.
Yeah.
Because the the Lib Dems wanted proportional representation, and the Conservative Party did not want that. So
Yeah,
they went,
they were
here,
like,
we can
AV.
give you AV.
Because it's basically the
It's basically
it gives
first
the
past the
same
post.
result as first past the post.
Yeah, it's a
do they not?
majoritarian system.
First past the post
Okay, yeah.
is when
First past the post is a simple plurality system, and it basically means winner takes all. So the winner is just the largest party. They just need to have one more vote than their closest
Yeah.
opponent, and they get the majority of seats in Parliament.
it doesn't have to be over 50% as well.
No, exactly. Like you can
Like-
get over the 50% of the seats without getting over 50% of the vote.
Like, for example, if it was Labour, Tory and Green, Labour got 33, Tory got 33 and Green got 34. I don't know why it's Green as the
I don't
biggest, but Green would like win over a majority of seats, even though 66% of the population didn't want them.
Yeah.
So it's a bit.
It's very unrepresentative, but it does not tend to produce strong and stable governments.
Yeah,
Because there's no chance of gridlock or
Yeah.
like infighting.
unless you don't get a strong majority,
Yeah.
like the two coalitions, which are both one
One
coalition, one
confidence and supply. Informal confidence and supply.
Yeah.
So obviously the referendum didn't happen. We still have first past the post in this country.
Yeah. Wait, no,
Um,
it did happen, didn't it?
No, it happened, but it didn't go through.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what I'm saying.
Okay.
And basically people will rank their votes in order of preference. So, you know, you've got the four parties. Let's just go with Lib
Yeah.
Dem, Greens, Tories and Labour. You'd go, okay, I want Labour in first, then with the Green in first, Lib Dems, Labour, Conservative. Green are going to lose, then your vote is now counted as the second one.
Right.
So the candidate with the lowest votes, so say Green Party got no votes, but that was your first choice, your
your
vote
votes
gets
will be like-
recounted as the
right.
second one, and if they don't win, it'll be the third one, and then if they
So
win,
it's basically just like cut off until there's like a couple left.
yeah, until there's two left and one of them has a majority. but it still kind of creates a two-party system.
Yeah.
Because Labour and Conservative will still always win.
Like,
Because as much as it gives the illusion of you can vote for a minor party, you still can't, because like it still favours the big parties.
yeah.
Because not many people will vote for Green.
Yeah.
So even if you put that as your first choice, it's your third vote's probably going to be the one that counts, which would be Labour or Conservative.
Then SV, which is... Oh, the bell's gone twice.
Yeah, it's just the beginning form.
Oh, okay.
We've got 15 minutes.
Okay. So SV is supplementary voting, and they have it in mayoral elections. So voters get 2 votes, similar to AV, and if no one wins more than 50% in the first round, the lowest candidate's votes get recounted, and then
Yeah.
like they're delegated. So if
It's
you do,
basically AV,
Yeah.
but only with 2 choices.
yeah, and Andy Burnham won 50% plus 1 in the first round.
Yeah, like he won a majority in the first round.
Yeah.
Whereas AV is used in like New Zealand, but because a lot of people will accidentally spoil their ballot or just not look and write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
Yeah.
and not actually like look at the candidates.
Yeah.
But proportionate representation is kind of what it says on the tin. The percentage of votes a person gets is the percentage of seats, or
Yeah.
party is the percentage of seats that they get, which it probably give us multi-member constituencies, which prevents any winner takes all system. So people would have to kind of work together, and as we mentioned before, Northern Ireland has this. And they'll like no one will ever have a majority, so they can't rule in favour of one group, which is preferable in Northern Ireland, because if the Catholics won, they'd kill all Protestants. Well, not kill. That's like Henry VIII. That's Henry VIII time, but you know. What I mean.
They would reform. They would quote unquote reform Ireland.
Yes.
Whatever they want to do.
Do you want to do AMS?
I will do AMS. So AMS stands for.
I don't know.
It's just called AMS. It's basically a hybrid system,
Yeah.
which is it combines elements of majoritarian and plurality systems. So you have 2 votes. One is under first past the post, and then one is under proportional representation. So, like MPs. So if you have 2 votes, it would be 1 for the constituency, and then 1 for a larger geographical area. So first past the post would be for your constituency, and then proportional representation would be for the larger region, which promotes like more votes for minor parties.
Yeah. No.
3 times.
I think we should just.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for watching today's podcast.
Second episode
Second
done
episode.
and dusted.
We shall see you in a week before we break up
Yes.
for Christmas. Before Christmas
time.
happens. So everyone, like and subscribe, please.
Revise
over.
Yeah.
Use your time wisely. You might think on Christmas, bloody hell, I don't want to do revision. Do 5 minutes and then
Just
you can say
listen
you've
to this podcast.
Listen to the podcast.
Literally.
We'll upload a Christmas special. Don't worry, guys.
Honestly. Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.